what it would be okay to kill someone if you weren't to get caught. Think of the arrogance of your question and the fact that you answered it when religion is associated with the justification of violence, and religion has been associated historically with encouraging people to kill and making it easier to kill people. But you feel the need to ask an atheist that you think is not going to be moral, because after all, morality comes from religion, right? And you people must not have as much morality because you don't have any religion, right? In fact, morality predates religion by thousands of years. People were moral one way or another, and they made moral decisions, and our species existed and survived for thousands and thousands of years before the existence of Christianity, and we survived, so apparently we were doing something right, and we apparently didn't kill each other off, and yet here we are in this highly religious age, and it is yet to be seen whether we're going to kill each other off with nuclear bombs. Would it be okay to kill someone if you didn't get caught? No. Would it be okay to kill someone if you knew that it would save some other people, etc.? No, but you might have to do it anyway. Sometimes you have to do the lesser of so many evils. That's one of the things about religion, is it gives you a lot of moral dictates, but it doesn't tell you how to deal with them in the real world, where frequently you don't have a choice between good and evil. You have a choice between the lesser of so many evils. There are actually scientific facts in the Bible and the Quran which were unknown at the time. Why is that? Well, again, as most conservatives do, you state opinions as facts and your opinions are wrong. The Bible is filled with pseudoscientific bullshit. The Quran especially is filled with pseudoscientific bullshit. You simply have your facts wrong. There are numerous places in the Bible where it says that the earth is flat rather than a globe or a sphere. It says that the that the earth is 5,000 or 6,000 years old, when we know that it's billions of years old. So the Bible talks about, you say right here, the Bible talks about the amount of stars and that the earth is round, etc. No, it doesn't. It says the earth is flat. What are you talking about? And the thing about the stars, there is no place anywhere in the ancient world where people talked about billions and billions of stars like Carl Sagan. Nobody had any idea that there were billions upon billions of stars. They didn't even have numbers that went that high. So what are you talking about? See, this is what I don't understand, is people who make statements. This is why I call myself Skeptic Sage. People just believe in the most crazy ass shit, simply because it gets around on the net, or it gets around, a bunch of theists get together and they say, oh, this is true, don't you know? Oh, it is? Okay, well, I'll believe that now. And they don't ask themselves, well, where did that information come from? What if alien life was discovered with the same religion as one here on Earth? We'll take into consideration that religion was derived from human beings who exist and who created their religion in order to con other people and control other people, and in order to manipulate people's fear of death. I wouldn't be surprised if aliens living in a similar kind of culture, because they would live in a similar kind of reality, planets have certain things in common, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a similar religion. That wouldn't prove anything. All it would prove is that religions are derived from environments, and that similar environments are going to derive similar religions. Simple question. I wouldn't be surprised at all if a religion from somewhere else. In fact, if you look at the religions on the planet, they're very similar. I don't think that proves anything. What would convert you to theism? Again, there would have to be evidence. You need to understand what I mean by evidence. I mean that God would have to actually be here. God would have to show up. God would have to say, here I am, here's my evidence. And even then, I would have to rule out that I was psychotic. I would have to rule out that someone was trying to con me. I would have to rule out a whole bunch of things. And any living God would be okay with that. Since God isn't coming down, God isn't giving any evidence, I can only assume he doesn't exist. I mean, someone said that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Sure it is, because anything that isn't true can be set. You could say absence of evidence is an evidence of absence, but you could make anything true by saying that. And then we would have a reality filled with just endless amounts of bullshit that we believed were true simply because we didn't respond to the absence of evidence. Things that actually exist in the real world should be giving off evidence. It's hard for me to imagine a phenomenon existing in the real world that doesn't give off evidence. It exists in the real world, it affects the real world, it created the real world, but somehow it doesn't leave any tracks. That's bizarre. God leaves no tracks? That doesn't make any sense. And there are people saying God does leave tracks, and they tell you what the tracks are, and it's bullshit. No one yet in my life has ever told me anything that was even remotely convincing. And you'll find very few people, in other words, if you meet anyone that believes what I believe, they believe in science, they believe that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and they believe that theories should be guilty until proven innocent, they should be false until proven true, all of those people, 100% of those people, are atheists. But I've never met anybody, I've never even heard of anybody in writing and at any time in history who starts from those premises and yet is still believes in God. Would you prefer a God and an afterlife? Why or why not? I prefer an afterlife. I think that would be interesting rather than just not existing, even though I expect not to exist because there doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence to support an afterlife. My brain is where my consciousness is. When my brain decays, why shouldn't my consciousness? There doesn't seem to be a lot of reason to believe that that there's an afterlife. If there was an afterlife, why isn't there some evidence of it? Be interesting, but I think to think about, would it be interesting if such and such were true, when such and such is very unlikely to be true, and you ask, would you prefer there to be a God? No. The idea that the universe is run by a dictator, or the idea that this universe, with all of its imperfections and with all of its craziness, being created just so you can suffer and die, to exist and to love existence only to know that you have to leave it, and to have within you the biological wanting to not cease to exist. So in other words, to know that you will cease to exist but not to want to, and to be caught in that dilemma, that seems like a pretty mean mind fuck. And the only kind of God that could exist that would create something like that would be an evil God. And so I would rather there not be a God, because if there's a God, God's evil. But I hope you respond to this one with another video. If you don't respond, it will make me wonder if my questions were too much for you. Skeptic sage, extraordinary evidence, extraordinary theories require extraordinary evidence, peace.